Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you how to remove the rear derailleur of a standard bike. From kids bikes all the way through to road bikes, the overwhelming majority of systems use a rear derailleur, and don't be put off. They're really simple to remove, really simple to fit as well. In terms of fitting a new derailleur and how to set up the B screw and the high and low limit screws, fitting a cable and everything else, do look at my other videos. I'll put a link in the description and I walk you through the whole process in how to do that. But for today, we're looking at the removal and therefore the fitting of this same derailleur. Okay, you don't have to contend with much, so don't be put off by the cable unless you're going to be removing and replacing the cable as well. The only real thing you need to contend with is the chain, because it courses through and round both of the pulleys here on the derailleur, so obviously the chain's got to come off. But before we do that, just take a look here. This is normally silver. This is called the gear or derailleur hanger, and it's what the derailleur fits onto. If you have a lower end bike, please don't be offended, you may not have a gear hanger, and the derailleur will fit directly to the actual frame of the bike, just to keep costs down. But for mid-range and higher end bikes, you will have a gear hanger. This is made of a softer metal than the frame, and it's meant to be brittle, so that for any reason, if you come off the bike or the derailleur itself is knocked, the impact isn't going to affect the derailleur or the frame. Instead, this section here is going to get bent, possibly snap as well, and that's what you want to happen, because these are only 10-15 quid to replace most of the time, and therefore a much cheaper component to break. Okay, so what we're going to do is work out first of all which of these two bolts we need to remove. This one is to hold the gear hanger to the frame. Sometimes you have 2 or 3. This is the one you want to remove, and you can tell quite easily because if you move things backwards and forwards, you can see that this is attached to everything else. So what about this chain? Well, it's going to be attached probably in one of 2 ways. This one has got a really simple master link, which is coming up. There it is. And with the master link, I'll just get it into focus for you. The master link is really simple. It can just be removed with some simple link removers. Let's give this a go. Let's work live. It's more fun doing it like that. There we go. I would have done it at the bottom, but it's much more out of focus at the bottom, so I'm doing it up here for you to see. And it's just a case of putting it together and then don't allow the parts to snap away, but you can pull the whole chain out. There we go. Now, that's the chain gone. We can pop the chain back in a moment. It might be you don't actually have that system, and in fact, instead, you have just a whole chain that's entire and all the links are the same. In which case, you're going to need to use a chain break tool to break one of the pivots, the rivets out of the way to get things undone. Now, I've got a video again on my on the channel that will explain that to you. If you've got a Shimano chain, sometimes there's a specific rivet to push through as well. Anyway, have a look at my other videos and that will explain that to you in greater detail. But now the chain is off, you can remove the derailleur because, as I say, the cable doesn't really impact things. So let's get to work. In nearly all cases, you need a 5mm hex key or Allen wrench, but it might be different for your system. It's not a big deal. Just undoing it as you go. And then as things get undone here, the derailleur is going to just come straight off. Now again, you've got no hindrance at the moment because of the chain being gone. And actually, this is now the point where you would remove the cable and think about setting up and threading through a new cable to get going with. But we're not doing that. I'm just showing you today how to remove the derailleur, and it is as simple as that. You can see here, it's a simple bolt into a recess here. The threads should be nice and clear and they should receive each other well. In terms of putting it back on, it's a little bit trickier, but nothing horrendous. You see this stop point here, this wedge if you like, this has got to sit above this little part here of the hanger. And again, if you don't have a hanger, the same thing will exist on the actual frame itself. So this part, which is here, has got to sit above this part. So if you were to attach the derailleur like this, it's not going to be on properly. It's going to have to be put on like this. I'm going to adjust the camera and you can see exactly what I mean. So from this angle, you can see the wedge of the gear hanger, that this wedge here needs to be above. So it needs to be the camera side of that. Naturally, the derailleur is going to want to sit about here, which means it's going to be in the wrong place. The best advice I can give is to attach the derailleur a little bit by screwing the bolt that you undone a moment ago into its place, but there's lots and lots of gap and lots of play. And then just with your hand, you can lift this up and hopefully you can see the wedge just down here coming above this point here. There we go, and it's about there. Once you know it's past that point, then you can continue attaching the derailleur. It doesn't need to be super tight. And then once it's in place, you'll know the wedge is there. So if I come a bit higher, it's really tricky to do it actually. Let's have a look. There we go. Lighting isn't great, but hopefully you can see that the wedge of both parts are meeting correctly, and there needs to be some movement, some play in the derailleur to go up and down to accommodate different gears. So when it's pivoting, you can see that things are held in place. If I take things back to how they were, you'll be able to see why. Because when the derailleur is working, once we've got our chain reattached in a moment, let's get some focus here. The derailleur moves quite a lot up and down, but also at this pivot point here. If the wedge wasn't there, that simple piece of metal, this whole system here would bend downwards, and this part here would move down in this sort of fashion, and you wouldn't be able to create the right amount of tension for your chain. So it's important that this is in the right place by the use of that wedge. If for any reason there's a gouge taken out of the gear hanger and that wedge doesn't exist, guys, your whole derailleur isn't going to work. So make sure you put it back in properly. But there we are. Now we need to put the chain back in, which you can see in other videos that I've uploaded, but by way of bonus content, I'll gladly show you now. So it's not terribly difficult. The hardest part is just to make sure that the chain doesn't fall away from you, because it's working against the spring of the derailleur here. It's a bit of a faff from time to time. Anyway, we're going to course it here. Off camera, it's going to be fitting in the front derailleur and round. You've just seen the end of the pedal there. So I'm holding the camera more on this section because that's what the video is about. But the chain has coursed around the front chain rings. Now what we're going to do is going to go round this pivot and then over this pivot. Pulley rather. So here we go. So over this first one, I'm going to bend this arm down. Let's bring it down a little bit. Bend this arm down, and we're going to then move things up and round. There we go. And once things are in place, things should be great. Now sometimes there is a scraping going on with this part of the derailleur. If you're hearing a scraping noise, it's because your chain is the other side and you haven't coursed things properly. But at the moment, although it looks like it's scraping, it's because there's no tension. Once there is tension, the chain will lift up and off, as you can see. So what we're going to do now is move around to about where my grubby finger is here, and we're going to join the two parts. It's often difficult to get the ends to stay together while attaching. Remember, your pivot arm can be pulled, so we're going to pull the two chain ends together, link these two up, and then remember those pliers from before? You may not need them, but if this is a bit sticky and tough to locate, which is common in new chains, because master links tend to wear down relatively quickly, you can just add your pliers and just pull away and locate it into place. But there we are. So folks, a short video, I know, but this is how you remove a derailleur. The main issue, as I've said, is to contend with the chain. Once you've removed the chain, you don't even need to worry about the cable unless you're servicing the bike or replacing the derailleur entirely. But for whatever reason, if you need to get the derailleur off, you now know how to do that. And we are job done. Thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned, keep looking at the other videos, like and subscribe and all the rest of it, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.